Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Lipp and I am the festival director for the 9th Annual Big Apple Film Festival. Each year we present our Golden Apple Award to an individual who is a New York City based filmmaker who has been extremely influential in the independent film community. Part of our mission as a New York based festival is to promote the city of New York and to celebrate films and filmmakers who are from New York City. So this year we're proud to present our Golden Apple Award to filmmaker Morgan Spurlock. Morgan Spurlock has been an extremely influential filmmaker. He has certainly played a role in helping bring documentary film into the mainstream. He is based in New York, which makes him a perfect recipient for this award. So before we continue, Morgan, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience?
Well, first I'd like to say thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I'm not there. As an independent filmmaker, you can appreciate the fact that you get the work when you can get it, and sometimes you end up having to shoot when you didn't think you were, but it's an honor for me to be able to get this as a filmmaker and a New Yorker who now I've been here 21 years, which I like to consider myself a full-fledged New Yorker now. You love and I love personally giving back to my community, both my filmmaker and my local community, and so to get this award is a real honor. I appreciate that.
Great. And just a couple questions for the audience. First off, do you find that New York City in itself is influential to you as a filmmaker? Do you feel inspired working here in New York?
I'm inspired by New York City because I find New York is still the hub of independent film. I feel like New York City is where independent spirits still live, where independent community still exists, and where this idea of making a film outside of a studio system still lives and breathes every single day. I'm inspired by the people that are here. I get story ideas from the people that I see on the subway or that I meet at the deli. I mean, I'm constantly getting ideas just from the people that are New Yorkers, and so I think that's. New York, years ago, somebody asked me, they said, why have you not left? And like, well, New York kind of grows on you like a fungus. And once it's on you, you can't get rid of it. And,
Right.
and I never want to.
What challenges do you find that you face now as a filmmaker in this day and age as an independent filmmaker? What are some of the major challenges that you face?
I mean, I think the biggest challenges that I face, as everyone faces, these days, is kind of how the distribution mechanism is continuing to be shaken up. The idea of creating these indie films that take off and become indie darlings. I feel like we were at the very tail end of a lot of it with Super Size Me. I feel like we were kind of at one of the last few years of independent films kind of being able to blossom out and a lot of that is because of what the internet's become. I mean, this was pre-streaming. When we negotiated our contract for Super Size Me, there was nothing about streaming movies or online even in our contract. Like we had, then a couple years later we had to go back and negotiate that. So I think that just the way that has kind of started to shift, the way that things like Napster changed the music industry, Napster and iTunes, that's going to continue to happen in film. And I think over time you'll start to get some things that I think will not only be economical but profitable for filmmakers. But it's hard right now because it's hard to find movies that you can get distributed out and actually make money on. So to be a working filmmaker is something that becomes a struggle every day.
And how do you see the future of distribution in terms of the online scene? Do you see that the theatrical release becoming a little bit less and more online? How do you see the future of independent film now?
Well, what you're seeing now is most people are using the theatrical as literally more of a sounding board. It becomes a place to kind of to make a big stance, make an announcement, get a lot of press that then will hopefully drive people to whether it be a digital release, an online release, an on-demand release. But ultimately, as we just talked about, those economics are very different than they were a few years ago because you would make you'd have a good release in a theater, which then would drive people to an on-demand, which would then drive people to DVD. Now those windows are becoming so compressed, the amount of money you'll make is getting much smaller.
So the movie theaters are actually acting as more of a promotional tool now
for independent film. Okay. For independent film, I think they are. I think that there's still the places like the Avengers of the world and these the big summer blockbusters are these event movies will continue to make a tremendous amount of money in movie theaters. But I think independent films. And for me, I'm platform agnostic. Ultimately, I want to get movies out where they're going to get seen by the widest possible audience, where they will, hopefully get the money back for their investors as quickly as possible. I still, we've been fortunate, up until, recently that most of the stuff we've made has been profitable, that our investors have made their money back. And, that's goal number one for me for the beginning is like, how am I going to help these people how am I going to help them recoup? What can I do to increase the marketing, to increase the awareness, to increase the international sales of your film. And that's also part of what's happened today. As an independent filmmaker, I tell young filmmakers all the time, is you've got to be prepared now to wear even more hats than ever before. You know, you've got to be able to put on your marketing hat and your director hat, now your producer hat, and you've got to put on your accountant hat, because at some point you're going to have to start chasing people for money to find out where your checks are.
Right.
And you've got to be prepared for that and ready for that. So the more you can understand how the business works and the economic of the business, the better chance you'll have of continuing to be a working filmmaker.
And how do you see the future for documentary film?
I think documentary film, you know, this is kind of what you know, kind of where I came from. I still believe in documentary films. I believe there's still an audience for documentary films. I think that, you know, you need to continue to have people who will nurture them. You know, HBO has been incredibly good to documentary films for years. There are distributors that continue to stand by them, folks like Magnolia, Sony Pictures Classics. And I think that there will still be people who recognize that there is an audience for them, because there is. You know, now how do you continue to turn those into a broader release? You know, you have these films like Bully, Cinna, The Imposter Searching for Sugar Man. I mean, these movies were hits, you know, but ultimately they didn't make more than $3 million a piece, you know. And I think that what we need is to figure out a way where we can turn that kind of marketing muscle and that promotion machine into a way that will help drive box office revenue. Yeah. And
are you planning to work on a narrative?
Yeah, that's the plan. You know, it's you know, it's as any filmmaker will tell you, it's I've had an easier time making documentaries than you'll ever have making narrative films, because there's so many other moving parts. You know, whether it's cast, whether it's finding the money or a studio or whatever it may be. But yeah, you know, there's a narrative film that I've been attached to now, coming up on 4 years.
Wow.
I guess it was around 2008 when I first got attached to this movie, and we've done 2 rewrites of the script. But then we went out and started getting cast attached to it. Now we're starting to get a great cast. We've raised the money based on that cast, and so now it's just finding a time to shoot it.
All right. And lastly, what advice would you give to our emerging filmmakers who are in the audience tonight?
To all you great filmmakers out there, the greatest piece of advice I could give you is to be true to you. You know, you don't want to try and emulate someone else's voice. There will be people who will question what you're doing. There are people who say that's a crazy idea, or why are you wasting your time making that movie? I got that all the time with the stuff that I made, well, whether it was Super Size Me or Where in the World is Osama Bin Laden or our TV show 30 Days. There were people that just said there's a better use of your time or a better place to do it. But as a creative person, you need to do what you think you should be focusing on. You need to tell the stories you're meant to tell. And, you know, and on top of that, you should be prepared for it to be hard. Filmmaking is a hard business. You know, if it was easy, everyone would do it. So my big 2 pieces of advice are: be true to you and don't stop, because the more you commit and the more you give, the more in the end that you'll actually get in return. So don't stop, and good luck.
Great. Morgan, thank you so much.
Jonathan, my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.